Would you like to learn how to keep your frozen pastas and baked goods as fresh as the day you made them?
Well, today on WTF, we're going to show you how to prevent freezer burn by using either CMC or HM Pectin. And we'll do it in a lobster-stuffed Culurgione and a dinner roll. Hello and welcome to WTF, where we transform food here in the Modernist Pantry Test Kitchen. I'm Chef Scott Guerin.
And I'm Janie Wang, one of the owners of Modernist Pantry. And here on WTF, every week we cover unique ingredients and techniques and show you how to do these recipes in your own kitchen. So remember, comment and subscribe and you'll get notified of our content when it comes out. And this week we're going to be covering how do you make a freeze-thawed dough as fresh as the day that you made them, even if it's been in your fridge for a month. So Scott's going to talk about how do you do this for, I think, the two most commonly requested ones that we hear about, pastas and bread. So definitely stick around. We have lots of demos. So I think because this is such a big topic, Scott, let's start with just the pastas. So when we talk about pastas and we talk about freezing doughs, what is the problem that people are facing when they try to defrost something that they made previously?
Sure. So the biggest thing you're going to have anytime you put anything into a freezer is going to be freezer burn, right? So that's basically the moisture being pulled out of whatever it is that you're putting in there.
Okay. And what do we have that you think is going to help them with this problem, and how do we incorporate it?
Great. So we actually have two ingredients. The first one we're going to talk about is Carboxymethyl Cellulose, or CMC for short, if you want to use that. And basically it's just a thickener. Also, we have Pectin. We can talk about that in just a little bit for a different recipe. But Carboxymethyl Cellulose.
We'll just say CMC. Let's say CMC.
Yeah. See how many times I can say that. So CMC thickens and catches any extra moisture that could then, be evaporated into the freezer. And whenever freeze burn happens, that's the evaporation of any moisture, as ice crystals, and it pulls them out of whatever the recipe is, and the bread or dough is left with like a crust on the outside. It's hard to say exactly what it's just
like
a very dry,
icy, crusty.
The ice is all the moisture that's come out, and
Mm-hmm.
then you have this very dry, chewy, unpleasant kind of texture underneath. So what you want to do is to hold on to that moisture as much as possible, and the best way to do that is to slightly thicken it with either CMC or Pectin.
All right. What are we doing today? Because I know that you wanted to do some pastas where I think are they stuffed?
Yeah, these are stuffed pastas. So yeah, we've done this recipe before. So this is kind of a showcase of a recipe we've done before. And if you want to check out that recipe, link in the description below.
Okay.
But we're going to do it with a different type of pasta, just to kind of show the new viewers that we have. So basically, we'll do the demo right now. We have AP flour, and this is a very different type of pasta dough. So there are hundreds, if not thousands, of different variations of pasta dough. And this is a more northern pasta dough. So this actually contains butter and milk and no corn. So we actually have milk and AP flour that we've added so far.
Okay.
Some salt, some CMC.
Okay, and you're doing your pasta in the food processor, but it shouldn't make a difference if someone decides to mix it by hand or anything.
So the reason why I like doing this one in the food processor is if I do a well, I like that when I have a lot of eggs, because then you could beat the eggs inside the well. I have one egg for this. So it would just be a lot of milk, which then can break the well and make a mess of your table. And then actually, instead of olive oil, we have some butter. If you prefer olive oil, you can absolutely sub it out. But this is a more northern pasta recipe, northern Italy. So it's closer to Germany, but don't let them hear me say that. Right, so I'm just going to turn this on. I'm just going to pulse it till it comes together. I don't want to continuously push this through my food processor. One, because it's a pasta dough, so it's a very dense dough, and I don't want to burn out my food processor. And two, I just want to have it come together. I can wrap it up, put it in the refrigerator, let it rest, and the gluten will develop there. So I'm just going to pulse it a few times, and you'll see it come together.
Okay. How much CMC is in this recipe?
So this recipe has about 1% CMC. You can go anywhere up to about 3%.
And I think the natural follow-up question that people have to that is, well, if I move it up from 1% to 3%, do I get 3 times, the moisture retention?
So I like to say the more moisture that you have in the recipe itself, then you're going to want to increase it because there's more moisture to hold on to. Every recipe is going to be different. I would definitely suggest, you know, finding something that works for you. But for this one, about 1% because it does have quite a bit of moisture, but we found that it works really well in the freezer. So you can see this here, I would mix it all together. You don't have to mix it too much. I don't have to sit here and knead forever because I'm going to wrap it and let it sit for about 30 minutes to an hour to relax. And then I can go right into making my pasta dough. If you're running it through a machine, you can, you know, 2 or 3 times until you stop seeing any little cracks in it. But it's a very simple recipe to make.
Okay, and what I like about what you're doing is that aside from adding the CMC into it, you're kind of doing everything else exactly the same. There's no like special techniques, or there's no, oh, I got to change up my recipe. You're just adding the CMC to your existing recipe. Yeah,
so if you don't want to use this recipe and you want to use your own, you can just add in the CMC. You don't have to worry about it. The texture change can be very minimal, especially if you're using around 1%. It's like you won't even know it's there. So that's a really good thing. So I'm actually going to move this just over to the side because we're going to fill our pastas here.
Ooh,
so we have some rounds that I've already made out of the pasta.
Okay. And are these fresh or are these the frozen?
These are fresh. So we're actually going to freeze them after we make the filled pasta. The best way to do it is so you can take them directly out of the freezer, pop them into the boiling water, and you're good to go. So whether you're working in a restaurant or it's just your favorite recipe at home, you know, middle of the week, you don't want to sit there and be filling pasta for your entire family. You can just take them out. You made them on the weekend, boil them, and they're good to go. So I have these rounds. And I'm just going to egg wash them a little bit. And we're going to be making Culurgione, which is a very kind of fat cousin of ravioli. So I'm just going to egg wash the outside.
Ooh.
Just a little bit. Now this is a very difficult pasta to fill. If you don't want to do this, you can absolutely make tortellini or ravioli, whatever it happens to be. This is just a fun one to kind of show.
Okay.
So I'm going to hold it like a taco. And then I'm going to fill it with whatever filling you want, but for this recipe that we're making, it's lobster, it's fingerling potatoes, it's chive, and a little bit of lobster sauce. And you want to almost overfill it, right? So take this. One thing you can do is kind of like mat it down just a little bit at the front because I'm going to pinch. So this is the first point. I'm going to make this pinch, and I'm going to stick it in. You see how it makes 2 kind of little points here?
Yep.
So I'm going to pinch it to 1.
Okay.
More. Pinch it to the next. And then push it in again. And I get 2 more little points. So pinch it to the side. In. Pinch this one. In. And just keep going. And we'll see if some starts to come out the front there. That's good. You know it's very full pasta. So you can just knock that off.
It's actually more like a dumpling.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Right? So it's, like I said, this is actually a Sardinian style pasta, but it is very much like a dumpling. And that's why I like this dough for it. So we get this really beautiful kind of pasta.
Cool. Right. Do you feel like the CMC aids at all with, you know, when you're overstuffing a pasta like that, with like the elasticity of the dough and its ability to like hold it without cracking? Does that help at all?
Just very slightly.
Okay.
So yeah, if there is high moisture content, it's going to help with all that, yes. So we're actually going to freeze these down, and later on in the episode, we'll come back and we'll make the entire pasta dish that goes with these Culurgione. So let's go do it.
Great. All right, while we wait for the pasta to freeze and then we come back and cook it and show how beautiful it is plated, we want to cover the second thing about freeze-thaw doughs, which is bread. So we want to make a bread, we want to freeze it, but we want it to come out still fresh, still delicious. Now, Scott, I know in the very beginning you said there's CMC and then there's also pectin.
Yes.
Can you talk about what exactly is the role of pectin when you're doing freeze-thaw stability?
Sure. So on top of grabbing onto that moisture, holding onto it, making sure it doesn't burn in the freezer, get freezer burn, pectin also does other things with the dough. So it can actually strengthen the gluten structure and make for a slightly chewier dough. So not only if you were freezing it, thawing it, pectin's a great option, but also if you want just a little bit more out of your dinner rolls, which we're making here, you can add the pectin in. Now you can use HM pectin, you can use LM pectin. The only difference that's going to be is you're going to use slightly more LM pectin. So 10% more LM pectin than you would for the weight of the HM pectin. So let's just say your recipe calls for 1 gram of HM pectin. You would use 1.1 of LM pectin. So it's a very slight difference. It's just slightly more. That just makes sure that they're even, amongst them. So if you have to interchange them or anything like that.
And just before Scott jumps into the demo, if you're like, what is HM pectin? What is LM pectin? There's an entire episode all about pectins. We're going to link to it in the description below, and also we're going to toss it in the end card on this episode so you can watch it next.
Yeah.
All right.
Exactly.
So you're like, what?
If you're new to pectin, watch that, come back, and watch this. But yeah, so we're going to start AP flour, just like we would with normal baking recipes. This is basically what everyone has in their kitchen, is an AP flour, as I make a slight mess. No big deal. All right, so our dry ingredients, we have some sugar. Helps promote browning. You can use something like a polydextrose. You can also let this go overnight if you wanted to proof it overnight with diastatic malt powder. This is salt. We have Instafirm Gold, which is an instant yeast. It's great for any dough that you're making. And then we have our pectin, which is 2.2% to the total weight of the flour in this recipe.
Okay, not all the ingredients, just the flour.
Yeah, just the flour, exactly. So then we have 2 different types of liquid. I'm actually going to give this a quick mix before I add anything, because I don't want any of this water or milk to land on top of that pectin.
Okay.
Gel it up, and then we have clumps within our dough. So I'm just going to give this a quick mix, just like a sift. The flour was sifted, so just want to make sure that all that is mixed in.
Okay,
right?
That's a good tip, because I think a lot of times people don't realize how much hydrocolloids love holding on to water.
So I'm just going to add in the water here.
Okay.
And then I'm going to add in the milk. Great. These off to the side. Okay.
Okay, and that 2.2% as you're mixing, is that a recommendation you have for people who are like, hey, I would love to add this to my bread recipe, or is that just a general?
So it works similar to the way that the CMC works. So you can do 2.2, you can go down to 1, you can go all the way up to 3. If you find you need more, if you find that it's just not helping your dough at that lower ratio, you can go up even further. It's really going to be up to your recipe, how much moisture content's in it. There's so many little variables that really change these. So this is a slightly drier dough. So in mixing it, I'm going to allow it to go just until it comes to a dough for this. And I'm going to show you quickly how to make one of the bread rolls, and then we can get into freezing them and baking them.
So you know how, like, when we were talking about pasta, we're talking about freezer burn, right? It's something that afflicts pasta. What's happening in bread? Is it kind of the same thing?
It can be the same, and we're actually going to see with our finished doughs is what happens to the outside of those rolls. Because you're taking them, you're proofing them, even in a humid environment, there's a change that happens to the outside, the exterior of those bread rolls. So you'll definitely know when something is freezer burnt. There's a big difference, and we will definitely see it on the rolls that we have.
Yeah.
So these are coming together really nicely. Like I said, this is a little bit drier of a dough. So once it comes together, I can actually show you just quickly how to roll one of these out.
All right. And I'm sure someone's thinking, hey, you just said CMC. Do I need to use CMC when I'm doing pastas? Do I need pectin when I'm doing bread? Can I interchange them? Can I combine them? People always ask those questions.
So interchangeable, yes.
Okay.
Just make sure you're using them at the correct ratios. Since they're a similar ratio, you can pretty much do 1-to-1, just kind of replace them. You're going to get a chewier dough, so if you don't want a chewier pasta, stick with the CMC. If you do want a chewier pasta, let's get into using the HM pectin.
Okay.
But if you're like I said, dry dough. Great. Well, it let me know it's done. So so if you wanted to use HM Pectin with this or CMC, which we actually did test, you can see both of them. They look very similar when they're done. So you're going to want to measure these out to about 59 grams for this. I'm not going to measure it. I'm just going to show you a very simple, quick technique. So basically, you can do two methods. There's kind of like the claw method or the cup method. I like to do the cup. I put it right over the top.
This works when you have Scott's giant hand.
Yes. So basically, I'm just unrolling it between these two fingers, and this holds it in place.
Okay.
So I'm going to do it like this, and I like to do it on a semi-dry table. This is actually perfect right now. And I'm going to just mix it until it's smooth over the top. If I were to let this proof, it would be very smooth over the top. That way you get a very uniform roll. So I would take it, I would put it onto my sheet pan, and I would freeze it at this point.
Okay.
You can cover it, freeze it, and let it go for up to a month, sometimes a little bit longer depending on your recipe. But you can pull them out, proof them, bake them within like 2.5 hours, and you have great bread rolls that you made at home.
Very nice. And then it would taste like you just baked it because you did.
Yep. So we're going to roll all these out, get them in the freezer, and then we'll get into baking those. And when we come back, we'll be able to see what they look like baked.
Awesome.
Sound good? So through the magic of internet television, we're back with baked rolls.
Sweet. You baked all these in the time period? All right.
The blink of an eye.
All right, what do we have?
All right, so the ones up front here are actually the controlled. These do not contain any CMC or HM Pectin. They're the basic bread roll.
Okay.
And you can see at around the 4-week, 5-week mark here. So this was 1 week ago, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. So technically, you know, coming up on 5 weeks for this one, you can see that kind of crown on it. And it's very, very, you can do it up, very, very hard on the top, and it's lost a lot of its moisture. They had a lot of ice crystals before I baked them as well. And you can see, you know, when you get there, you get a very slight kind of crown on these two. This one definitely has a, you know, a darker or a lighter color.
And this is only 1 week, right? So even week 1, you're seeing it here.
And then this one is just nearly inedible, right? So, but with this, you can see a little bit towards the 4-week mark with the CMC. These are all the CMC here. So 1 week, 2 week, 3 week, 4 week. At around 4 weeks, still great, still looks consistent with these, but you can definitely see a little bit of moisture loss. That's why we say about the 1 month in the freezer. But these are all covered in the freezer. It's not like they're exposed to the, you know, the elements in there. But you definitely get a really consistent roll all the way through with such a small amount of a product.
No, it's true. You can like almost indistinguishable.
Yes. So that's great. So like if you have one batch and then you have the next batch, you can cook them side by side, not have to worry about them. And these rolls here, you can see they're also very consistent. We just bake them close to each other, similar to like a Hawaiian roll, right? And these are both the HM Pectin and the CMC. On top here is the HM Pectin, so you're going to have a slightly chewier texture to it. But I wanted to show you on top of that. These are 4 weeks, similar to these where we, you know, we kept them all together, we let them bake, and you can just see the texture on top. It's very unpleasant, very light. They were all treated with, you know, a little bit of milk wash or egg wash and it's melted butter and then a milk wash that I put on top of these, so that they're all treated the exact same way, but you can definitely see the texture that's on top. It's very different.
So I'm going to taste test this one. So how long has this one been in the freezer and when was it baked?
So these are the 1 week. So so they've been frozen and they have been baked. You know, like a week ago they were made. They're not the 4 week because, you know, we have them for the testing here. We want to test them every week to make sure that they were good.
And you can kind of see the crumb is still really soft. It's really
still really nice. Yeah, we baked those yesterday too, so you can definitely tell that they hold up really well overnight as well.
I like this with butter.
Yes, we're going to have a nice pasta dish here, and in a few minutes you can dip it in there perfectly. So,
don't carb load.
So yeah, those are the rolls, and I mean, it helps pretty much any roll that you would add them to. But if we want to get into the next little bit here, we just got to reset, and then we'll be able to do it.
Okay, so while Scott resets, I just want to talk really quickly about this week's giveaway. So if you were very inspired to start adding CMC and or pectin into your pasta dishes, your baking dishes, or maybe there's something else that you're interested in doing, leave a comment below of something that you would like to test this in. Anything. And then you can win both a bag of CMC and a bag of the pectin of your choice. So 2 prizes for the price of 1 comment. Whoops, I just dropped some bread. Okay.
All right, so
we'll be right leave back. A comment.
Great.
All right, so we are getting in the home stretch of this episode and leading to my favorite part, the plating and the cooking and the tasting. So I see you have a really yummy sauce bubbling away here. What do we got?
All right, so this is actually a lobster sauce. It's very simple. It's fennel tops, tarragon, lobster shells. I take out the tamale so it's not green. A little bit of tomato paste, some cream sherry. Really beautiful. It's one of my favorite sauces to make.
Smells great.
So I actually am going to pop these in to cook. So we should put them in here. Off to the side, I got some boiling water.
And how long were those frozen for?
So these are frozen for a week.
Okay.
Right, so I'm going to let these cook just for about 10 minutes, just until they're thawed all the way through, or they're defrosted all the way through. The pasta is cooked, and they're good to go.
Okay.
And they just need to slow it down just a little bit. Now, with the finish of this sauce, I'm going to add a few things to it. So I have actually some ramps. If you don't happen to have ramps, that's totally fine. You can add any green you'd like. So I just have some kind of slivers of ramp greens here. So I'm just going to get those in there. You could saute those beforehand. I just didn't want to add any extra fat to this sauce. And then actually in this pan I have some little necks as well. So I steamed off those little necks ahead of time. So we can have those. So very simply, once these are done, I'm going to add this in. I'm going to mix it with the sauce, and then we can get to plating it. Probably move ahead here if we want to. All right. So now that the pasta is cooked, I'm going to take them out. Let's see. Let's get a beautiful shot of them. So when it's all done, look nice and fresh and plump, and I can place them directly into the sauce, just like so. Now I'm not going to toss it too much because I don't want to break up this really nice pasta, but then you can just kind of baste them with the sauce itself.
Okay.
So we're just going to get a little
And I see you're letting the sauce thicken. Is that like part of the
of
process?
course.
Okay.
You can go with a thinner sauce, that's fine. You can pretty much go with any sauce you want as long as it's delicious, right?
Yeah.
So
We always like to say everything is to taste. If you like it, that makes it good.
yes, except in baking. Baking to taste generally doesn't work. Great. So I'm going to start plating these up. These are all nice and cooked. They're plated with the sauce.
Yum.
Turn this off. Culurgiones. Place these right in the center. Try not to overlap them. Little necks you can place around. Many more garnish as well. A little bit of the ramps. Right. Clean up any spots that fall. And then just enough sauce to fill the bottom of the plate.
Ooh.
You don't want to cover up the top of the Culurgiones too much.
Okay. And you can get this recipe in the links in the description below. And if you want to give it a shot, I think the sauce probably also goes great with all kinds of other pastas too.
There's some nice shaved fennel. Shaved fennel's awesome. It looks beautiful. Nice fresh flavor and texture.
Ooh.
Tarragon.
I like this plating.
Thank you.
It's pretty.
And then a few crispy crostinis, but obviously if you wanted to use one of the rolls, you absolutely could.
That's right, to mop up the sauce.
Yep.
Oh, I should totally do that.
Just a small one. Round it off.
Anyway, I'm going to do it.
And that's it.
Right.
So if you want to taste the
destroying
sauce,
one.
if you want to taste
I
it
know.
up here so we don't have to
I know. I
wreck
was
it. Nice
just going to
plating.
like get in there. All right. course I dropped it. That's okay. The sauce is good.
Thank you. But yeah, the entire recipe is going to be on our blog or in the links in the description below, so you can find it there. But this recipe is yours to make your own. If you want to fill it with something different, if you want to make a different sauce, you absolutely can. As long as the pasta is going to be frozen, add something like a CMC to it to make sure it doesn't freeze or burn.
Yeah. So until next week, from here in the Modernist Test Kitchen. I did not say that right. I'm going to try that again.
Take it again.
All right. So until next week, from the Modernist Pantry Test Kitchen, we'll be here cooking. There will be some cards and whatever lying around for other episodes that you might be interested in, including pectin. I know Scott mentioned polydextrose and diastatic at one point. He just tossing those words out. So there's definitely a lot more you can do with CMC, with pectins. If you want to learn more about that, watch these other episodes. So until next week, I'm Janie Wang.
And I'm Scott Cameron.